Got a beer, yeah. Unless you were listening, it was a good show. You used right down your alley. Entrepreneur.
You ever read the book Entrepreneur Roller Coaster with Darren Hardy?
I have not.
Dude,
I've seen it.
It's a great book. It's a great book.
I gotta
It's
read
just
it.
the highs and the lows, the ups and the downs of being your own boss.
Right.
And it plays into everyday life.
It's on my wish list for Audible. I'm gonna get it for Audible, the audiobook version.
Welcome. I won't dance this week.
Come on. I need to see whatever that was.
All right. Welcome in. You've got Bridging Civil Tension, where we feel, right, better to have a conversation and leave the bridge standing than to just set them on fire and blow them up.
From the bridge.
Love thy neighbor. Of course, you're caught in the net right here at 21.6 The Net, Friday morning. We got a good show today. Mic silencing.
Man.
Not dropping the mic.
Just cutting it. Just cut it off.
Cut it off. And a little bit of high on the hog. Of course, with me, the host, the man, Phil Wallace, author, entrepreneur extraordinaire. Now dabbling into a little bit of investing with your FAMU.
Yeah.
Another one.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's fun.
And of course, I'm
Big thank you to Steve
Kent
Williams.
Jones. You've got me. I'm right here.
Hey,
All
buddy.
Friday morning.
All Friday morning.
All Friday. How have you been, man? Good.
Man.
Took last week off. It was kind of I had a meeting. I couldn't.
You were running the world.
I was trying.
Good stuff.
I was
Is that
trying.
plum?
Yeah, I went. Maybe that's eggplant. That might be a
Eggplant?
little
Okay.
eggplant, right?
You have a
Yeah.
little tan? Look at you.
Hey, everybody wants to be
You'll
brown,
be here
right?
at the late night hour with Kent Jones.
Yeah, we go. I tell you, I don't let the great white out. That's it's all farmer tan. Trust me.
Man.
Gary, good evening in Singapore. Hey, what we want to talk about today, we talk about mic silencing, MIC.
MIC.
And there was an instance. You want to catch everybody up on this instance?
Let me pull it up. It was a lieutenant in Ohio. His name is Bernard Kempter. Bernard Kempter was giving a speech for Memorial Day. They asked him to talk for 11 minutes. During his speech, he decided to go into the history of Memorial Day and how it started, giving African Americans who participated in the war, who played a major role in the war, credit for what they did as far as wanting to make sure that some of the fallen soldiers had a proper burial. And in the middle of him giving his speech, they just decided to cut his mic off. So here is this Army lieutenant that we're giving praise, that we're honoring for Memorial Day. And when he says that there was others who participated in making this happen, and just so happened to be African Americans, whoever was stage left decided to cut his mic off. Now, I thought we were not disrespecting veterans. I thought this was the same country who was all about being respectful to the lieutenant colonel.
Yes, Phil has been missing. He's back in studio, which is great. Yeah, Lieutenant Colonel.
Yeah. So
Okay,
you have
so-
to understand how
All right,
confusing it is.
Let's back up.
Yeah, come
Let's get the
Back
get the
that thing
whole
up like
let's get the whole story.
9 in the 2000s.
Let's get the whole story.
Come on.
This is the American Legion.
Mhm.
We're going to shout out to who it is. We ain't going to try to cut corners or pull the wool over anybody's eyes. This is the American Legion. They looked at they pre-read. He had to give them that speech
Okay.
before. And they said, you got to take that out. You got to take that out, they said.
So America wanted African Americans removed from literature?
Yeah.
What?
From this speech.
You can't be serious. Not our country.
The lieutenant colonel said, or he's a lieutenant. So the lieutenant says, Lieutenant Colonel Bernard Kempter. Yeah, right. All right. So he didn't get their email or didn't open their email in time to change the speech, is what he stood on. So it was just so interesting that, and if you watch the video, there's videos out there. He taps the microphone.
Yeah.
Is this on? Like something just happened.
Called the guy out by name, Jimmy.
But he doesn't break stride. He keeps going with his. So they had the speech. That's how they knew.
Oh, when he got to that last part, that's when they cut it back on.
Yes. Now, the head of that American Legion has since been. He retired. They didn't fire him. Whatever. He stepped down. Whatever.
He retired a week later.
But that's interesting. Why is that interesting to you? Let me just ask you that.
I think that it's interesting to me because, well, there's two reasons. One, when you try to educate people that historically that play has been run thousands of times. The removal of African Americans and the role they play in certain situations that we give praise to wants to be silenced or taken out. We've talked about this in history books, how they do not talk about the role that certain African Americans play. But when you tell certain people that you're making it up, you're playing the victim, you're blah, blah, blah. Okay, now we got a chance to see it live. Realize we're not making it up. Now, on the other side is I thought we were respecting the troops, that we supported the troops, and we don't want to be disrespectful to the troops. And you can't ever do anything that may look or be received as disrespectful to the troops.
Yeah.
But we're okay with cutting a lieutenant colonel's microphone off when he's giving respect to troops if we have to give respect to troops who are African American. We're fine with silencing that.
All right. So here's my pushback and my question. My pushback and question is: we saw this play out in 2020 when an orange-hued president was silenced on social media.
Orange hue.
We won't talk politics.
It's an orangish hue.
But the American Legion, as far as I know, they're private. You got to be a member, right? And through 2020, we said, hey, they're private industries out there. They have the right to do whatever they want.
Right.
Yet now, because I'm just asking, why was it okay to silence?
Okay. Now, there are people who would argue that the Naranjad-colored individual
Yes.
Was silenced because he was viewed as a threat to the things that he would say.
Mm-hmm.
Is this also where we feel that it's threatening to certain groups, organizations, or the country?
Obviously, somebody thought
someone thinks that it's a threat and needs to be silenced.
Right. No, I'm not. I laugh because it's 2021 and it's absolutely just stupid, and the people are idiots. And you know what? You ought to just move and change your name or go into the witness protection because, you're the
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where didn't you run that post? Yes. Oh, you're
you're the guy that cut the
yeah right. But I thought about that, and he's like, I can't believe I fought for my First Amendment right, and then they hit me with this. It's the American Legion. It's a private group. You and I don't know. Can we belong to the American Legion? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't
I'd
know.
want to now.
Well, I don't know if I probably didn't want to. Otherwise, I would be.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
But here's what I find interesting. I guess is it's okay to silence people when it goes against what we stand for or what we believe in as a company, but it's not okay to silence people when it's something that I don't. Right? And as idiotic as it is, did they have the right to do that because it was their party?
I think they have the right to. I think if you don't like what I say here, you have the right to stop it.
Right.
You have the right to. Now, if you do that within your rights,
I just turned off your microphone. No,
now, if you do so within right, because I'm saying things and bringing awareness to things that you don't like or make you feel uncomfortable,
mm-hmm.
or now you have to look at other things that you've done in your past and have some internal conversations. Now
mm-hmm.
you did things that you have the right to, but you did it for the wrong reason.
See, and now you're a history major, so you love history, and you can learn. And I love history as well. I'm a history nut. I enjoy it, and I don't like, and I don't mean like Roman times. I like recent history.
Right.
Yeah, um, and the piece that was cut out was just fascinating to me. I had no idea. It was just fascinating, and you go, wow,
Right.
wow.
You would think that, like you said, they didn't say anything horrible,
Right.
and the information that he was giving was fascinating
On how Memorial Day originated.
How it originated. What aspect is frightening you? What aspect scares you? And is it that these days that we praise, will they be tainted or tarnished if African Americans were the roots of it? Is it no longer
just don't know, right?
as impactful as a day? Like, do we not want to do the red, white, and blue thing anymore because brown people made it?
Stupid is as stupid does. I mean,
how does that scare you?
Right. That to me. To me, if I want to play devil's advocate and push, you've got the right to, if it's your business, you got the right to do what you want to do. But it's the American Legion. It's full of veterans. You didn't like the guy's speech. You're telling me you couldn't have got somebody else?
True. But you couldn't got anyone else.
Right. I mean, you've known for a year this day is coming.
Right. But my thing is, you're full of veterans and you praise veterans, but what kind of veterans?
Right.
Because if we have veterans and we want to praise veterans and everyone hold everyone else up, but we don't want to talk about them because they're brown.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
That's a problem.
Then we really don't care about all veterans. And then, so this is when it goes back to when certain veterans feel a certain way when the national anthem is played. And I have great friends who are like, no, you put your hand here because this.
Yeah.
And I said, well, this is a guy who served and had to sit in the colored only section. After he fought right alongside with your grandfather, this dude fought over here and he couldn't drink out of the water fountain. He couldn't sit on this part of the bus. He couldn't sit in this part of the restaurant.
Yeah.
He got called this when he would walk home in his uniform.
Yeah.
So when I have this conversation with him, just trying to learn more about the history, he said that this country doesn't align with the things that he fought for. Yeah. Is he less valid because his skin is brown?
Well, that's what this lieutenant colonel said too, right? Yeah, it's frightening that they would silence him. It's just stupid. It's not frightening, but the good news is, right? This you got called out on it, and like I said, these two people's lives. Good luck. I mean,
I can't say the good luck thing just because this is the thing that we talked about with the police. Respectfully, that if there's an alignment and you have allies in this type of world who have this type of mindset, they're going to look out for you and figure out another place to put you. We do it in the history books. They just whitewashed his speech, really. So there's going to be a place where you come work here. We write the textbooks for the school district. You'll fit right in.
You'll fit right in.
You'll fit right in.
You'll fit right in, Mr.
So I can't say that he's ruined because he did the same thing that people do all the time. It's just now we got a chance to watch the replay.
Yeah, and again, in a different time, let's be honest. And when I say a different time, in a not so media friendly time, social media and whatnot,
right.
It would have happened. It would have got swept on the rug, and nobody would have knew about it, right?
Right.
I mean, and how many more speeches has happened? Now, as Gary says, that post 466 has been disbanded. Well, that was quick. That was quick. As many American legions now are probably scrambling. Right?
It's uncovered, though. In that aspect, it's uncovered. You can take it down, disband, whatever you want to do, but people got a chance to see it.
Well, the interesting thing is, with this whole thing, it really isn't threatening. I don't see it as a threat to anything. I think it's fascinating. And you go, I didn't know that.
Right. The information.
I just thought we paraded and we decided to honor
take Monday off,
to honor those and take Monday off. Hey, this is what it is, and we'll have hamburgers and brats and Go to work on Tuesday,
Play bags.
right? And the interesting thing is, and the piece that I'll say it. I mean, the piece is right. The way it started was after the Civil War. There was mass graves in the South.
Right.
And African Americans dug up the mass graves and made sure each one of those soldiers from either side had a proper burial.
Right.
Thus,
Memorial Day.
memorializing those who have fallen.
Right.
That's cool. That's
Right.
that's cool to me because that's history, right?
I mean, the fact, especially for both sides.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
'Cause
They
you know,
didn't
you know,
choose.
you know why this guy shot at you, but you still want to make sure that he's respected. These soldiers did not care about it, but you guys still went back down there to make sure that both sides had a proper burial. I think it's cool. I think
Right.
it shows that they had a big heart. I think that they were the bigger person in that situation. I
Absolutely.
think it took some backbone. And you would think that. So, in my mind, just kind of going back how we say the devil's
Yep.
advocate, in my mind, then I become curious of why don't we praise good men of character, the good apples, right? The good men of character, but we will praise, historically, bad guys who do good things. We won't praise good colored people, but we'll praise good white people or bad white people who do good things. You could be a slave owner and then turn on a light bulb.
Yeah.
You could be a slave who fought, helped us win, and then did something of character.
Yeah.
We will talk about him and make statues, and you guys will not get mentioned. You could not name me a single person from the organization who helped make sure that people were memorialized.
Yeah.
But we can know dozens of slave owners.
Well,
Make it make sense.
so and I'm glad you brought that up, and it's a perfect segue.
Yes.
Right? It's a perfect segue. On Netflix, and this is an absolutely incredible documentary, and it's called High on the Hog. I don't know if anybody out there has caught it. High on the Hog, and it's a documentary on how African cuisine created American cuisine, right? And so the very first episode, and it's a food blogger and food critic. Let's see what Shana has to say real quick. Hey, Phil, I think I might be a suspicious type, but lies of omission put everything going forward under greater scrutiny. I don't understand as far as our public education. How is it that the Tulsa massacre is nowhere to be found? It makes me think, what else? Can you comment as a teacher?
Hey, Shana. And this is where we've had that conversation
Mhm.
multiple times. Why is it that things like the Tulsa massacre aren't mentioned? Why is it that Philadelphia in 1985, where they bombed an African American community? That's 85 is, year before I was born. It's not too far fetched long ago, but we don't talk about certain things like that. We don't talk about the achievements of African Americans or things like the massacre that this history has, our country has done when this was a prominent black community. There wasn't gang violence. It wasn't the same crime stats as Chicago.
Oh, that's a thriving.
They were driving. They were multi-million in that era,
That's right.
and we bombed them because we didn't like what they were doing, and people weren't convicted as they should have been for murder. We don't talk about that, isn't it? We're talking about how they whitewash the history books. We don't want to tell the whole story. We want to tell selective parts that make this country look better than what it is in certain situations. And we don't want to give praise or highlight other individuals who don't look like those who make these decisions. For whatever reason, we're threatened by the fact that if I give this Native American or this African American or this Asian or this Indian or this Jewish or this gay or whatever, if we give this person credit who played a major role in the progress of our country, somehow someone somewhere is going to lose their seat at the table. And it makes no sense.
Yeah, thanks. And Gary, you and I are beautifully on the same wavelength there. To Shana's point, this is the same as the whitewashing of Japan's role in WW2 in their educational textbooks. Yeah, listen, you go over to Hiroshima, where there's still shadows from the atomic bomb we dropped, and they've probably got a whole different perspective. The bottom line is that history is written by the victors, the winners. Right. So you're going to get the spin that I want. Think about your kids when they come home and they say, "Oh, well, this teacher said la 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 la," and then you talk to the teacher, and they're like, "Nope, that's not quite the way I do what I said," or
Right,
whatever.
right.
You know, there's always two sides to the story, which is, when do we stop talking and start with truth in history and journalism? Utopia, maybe. You know what? But that's what this show does. That's what we're doing. We're trying to uncover
Right.
and address these hard issues, right? So,
Real quick.
yeah.
So I'm with you, and yes, history is written by the victors. But at the same time, if it's a situation where like people are still alive who remember these
Absolutely.
these events. So if I have to sit there and I'm like, my uncle's from this city, that's not how it happened. Or my grandfather's from this town.
That's what we're starting to find out, right?
We'll shut that kid up. We don't ever really want to, and even when you have hundreds, if not thousands, of people who are literally saying this is not how that played up. Can we please talk about this? For whatever reason, we're still nope. We've been perfect. We haven't done anything wrong. There's a blip of slavery, but other than that, we haven't done. It's not the truth. And if you keep holding on to a lie so strongly, then like Shannon said, what else do we need to question?
Well, sure. It is the truth. It's not all the truth.
But
right.
you're admitting. So you want to talk about every ghetto in America that has terror. We could talk about South Central. We could talk about Chicago. We could talk about Atlanta. We could talk about all these New York. We could talk about all these horrible cities. But when we talk about, we can never talk about a prominent black community where there was no violence and there were multimillionaires who made it out of slavery and created their own business. And it was one of the most prominent cities in this country ever.
And we erased them.
And we blew them up. And we shot them.
Set them on fire.
We blew up
Burn
Philly.
it down.
And then we don't understand why Philly's a ghetto now. We want to talk about that we bombed them and took their resources. We want to have that conversation.
No, right.
Well, we shot them. We just drug them out of the businesses that they owned legally and shot them.
Yeah. Well, because if we were to do that, then maybe we wouldn't get immigrants over here. People wouldn't want to come to America. It's not quite the same land of the free, home of the brave, right? The American dream, as we talked about a little bit earlier. Gary says, younger Japanese tourists to Singapore are always shocked to see our memorial to the fallen dead of World War II and to learn that we were under their occupation for almost 3 years. Wow, I didn't know that. Sal says it goes against their interest. Yeah, you're right. It can't be talked about if it's not talked about. Exactly, that's what I mean. You brush it under the rug, right? And here's why I say it's starting to be uncovered. High on the Hog on Netflix is a documentary about, and it goes into African American history. Things that I scratch my head and go, well, right? So it starts off over in Benin.
Okay.
Right. So Benin, for those who don't know, is a French-speaking West African nation. It was this is where every slave was funneled through. Basically, this was the slave highway.
Right.
And it's on the West Coast. And they walked the red dirt, the red clay roads that the slaves walked on. There are still memorials and things to slavery over there. They've got a huge archway that leads to the beach that you walked through
on your way,
shackled and gagged, and they don't knock that down. It's very interesting to me to see how proud these Africans were of their heritage and history over here in Benin, remembering it, but they didn't knock that down because it was a sign of slavery. It was a sign of, hey, look what we overcame and look what we did and how we built the new world. Right. So here in America, we hate it. We're knocking things down that remind us of those things.
Don't do that.
Right.
Don't do that.
I got to, because I'm sitting there watching this saying, how can these people be so proud and we're so hate-filled over here?
No one in this country, and you know this, Kent, no one in this country looks at a slave owner statue and says, look how far we've come, because most of the people who are in those towns with the slave owner statue says, I want to go back there. It's a whole different mindset. Go to the South, go to one of those colleges who have a statue on, and ask the people how they feel. The ones who the South will rise again aren't looking at, oh, I want to go so further away from this and never return to. No, those are good old boys who want to go back home. It's a whole different mindset. It's the same reason why people don't wear the swastika that points the other direction. That the other direction means peace and love, but you don't wear it because of what it looks like. Over here, it's an entirely different symbol than over there.
How?
Okay.
I'm not following you.
I'm with you. So over here, there's more of I want to go back to, or when I see this Confederate statue, it makes me proud. And now I look at you a certain way. If I'm a white dude and you're a black dude in the South, that's more of the mindset. Over there, that's not the case.
Okay.
So if there's more violence and hatred being spewed from this memorial of it, that needs to come down. If it is a situation where, like if it was Pensacola, Florida, and Pensacola people would be like, look, because of this, we need to do this and move forward, then okay, cool, have that. But if you go to Pensacola, Florida right now, blacks and whites don't walk together in the same mall. It's not doing the progressive thing that it's doing over there. There is no, well, we can unite and move forward. When you see stuff like that in the South, it still causes division.
Okay. So, but knocking those things down, aren't we doing the same thing, getting rid of it? And isn't that the same thing as turning a mic off?
No, not even close, Kent. We can take the statue down. It's still going to be in every history book that I have from the time I'm in elementary school to college.
Okay.
Why don't we have a single memorial of the Oklahoma?
It's a good question.
Have all the energy for these.
I don't have an answer for that. I mean, I can't give you the answer.
We got street names, we got statues, we got all this stuff. We have nothing praising. Oh, I won't say nothing because someone would fight me on the verbiage. We don't have half as much progressive black individuals as we do for slave owners and Confederate fighters and Civil War generals.
Sure. And
so if I really want to do unity and have it equal, I would have just as much for prominent African Americans or minorities that I do for these slave owners. And
that's why I say, the interesting thing, and not everybody's going to see this documentary, but that's why I say this documentary is pretty impressive. I mean, it's a difference of psyche between the citizens of various countries. Okay. And I imagine, I mean, I don't live in Benin. I've never been to Africa, so I don't know. Right. I mean, I what they're portraying is proud heritage, right? In this documentary, I haven't been there to see if there's still hatred or whatever, right? And it's brilliant. I had no idea okra came from Africa. I had no idea that yams came from it. And yams are huge, man. It's not the sweet potatoes that we call yams here. It's crazy, but and into more history, then they come over to America, and they go to Charleston, and and there's some places where there were free Africans. They weren't Americans yet, right? The Sea Islands or something like that, just off the coast of that they're like, listen, I'm gonna stay on this island. You guys can go be slaves over there. And white people didn't go to the islands because of malaria and whatever. I mean, it's already something that the Africans knew about and dealt with, and whatever, right? So it was just there's just a lot of things that you go, oh, well, I didn't know. Right. This is amazing. They look at it as a badge of honor, not the tragedy that it is. All right, yeah, and thanks, Sal. They're taken against their will. Are taken that it is that they were taken against their will to Charleston. Well, but this and understand and listen for all of you people who are going to say it. Yes, and this documentary says, and they're interviewing an elder. He goes, make no mind about it. Africans sold Africans. Make no mind about it. and they don't talk about Americans. They talk about Europeans, right?
Right.
Europeans came down, and all right. So I mean, there's a lot of interesting things in this documentary that I go, okay. They don't back down from it,
No.
right? But they do show, and they've got statues of Africans in shackles and chains and gagged, and and there is a mass grave there too, because not all of them got on the boat. They treated them poorly. They didn't feed. It wasn't a pretty sight.
Right.
It wasn't a pretty sight. And I guess, as I was sitting there, that's what I was saying, is like, how can they be so proud? But okay, I see what you're saying, right? They're not dealing with the same challenges,
right?
Perhaps that we are here, right? And that makes sense to me. And I don't mean to be naive. I'm just, these are the things that run through a middle-aged white guy's mind as I'm watching.
In Benin, they're probably not walking down the street as a 40-year-old man and being called boy.
No, probably not. Yeah.
Nobody's probably spray painting the N-word on the side of their hut.
Yeah.
They're probably not racial slurs like that at the school in that village. There's probably not they're probably not a Kohl's in Benin where you can get followed.
Sure.
So it's a little different over there.
Yeah. Well, but that's what, that's what was going through my mind. And that's what's going through a lot of white folks' mind, or non-African.
Yeah. Why do they get these people? But at the same time, like, think about the mentality then. Why do they get to keep their slave statues, but we got to take ours down? Why do you want your slave statue so bad? Why mentally would you put more energy into keeping a slave statue than raising one of a predominant minority? Why does your mind never fight so hard for more statues of prominent minorities than it does for maintaining slave statues? Why don't you have that energy redirected somewhere else? That, to me, in the back of a 30-year-old African-American, that shit is baffling. That people will fight harder for the maintaining of slave statues than the raising of prominent minorities in our country that have done good stuff. We're good people. They don't have a record that we can post or a do-rag picture that we can make them a criminal of. We never put that same energy to raising that up, but we want to talk and cry about keeping slave statues.
Well, sure.
I would redirect my energy somewhere else.
Well, and I totally understand what you're saying. I'm not there's maybe only one or two statues I think should be out there. Magic and Shaq and Kobe, but right. Yeah, you're right.
And Kareem's a good one.
Kareem's a good one.
Yeah, that's actually.
Yeah. So he or she who control purse strings control the nerves. Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about that.
Right.
Who's the puppet masters, right? And there's truth in that. I've never, even when I was a kid in the 70s, it wasn't let's go and visit statues and learn about history, right? So to me, I don't pay much attention to statues. Right. What I do, I like historical mile markers and things like that. Yeah. You go and read a little bit, like, oh, whoa, this is where Jeffrey Dahmer ate his first person, or whatever, But that's a whole different tour, different show. So this the amazing thing is that
yes, Jordan.
As we no, not Jordan.
What?
There's a whole bunch of reasons. No, he should. He's great. I kid. I'm just not a Jordan fan. Yeah, great point, Phil.
Thank you, lady. Love you.
So I agree, but this documentary is bringing those things to the surface.
Right.
This documentary, they go through George Washington, right? And his chef Hercules was this guy's name.
Right. Now,
these are things you don't learn. This documentary says, listen, in Virginia, a northern state, if an African American, or an African, I guess at that point, they're not American, right? They were property was in. Now listen to this. These are things you don't learn in the history books. was in Virginia for 6 months straight. They were free. George Washington would go, and take them back
Down
south for 2 or 3 days and bring them back
to hit the reset button.
And that's I was like,
tell you that.
I was like,
You
what?
understand how sick you are, bro, to do some
That's the
stuff like
president of
that?
the United States.
I understand how sick you are. You are in your 5.5 months here. Kent, you're 2 weeks away from being able to be a free
You're my
American.
head chef. I love the food you cook for me.
I need seasoning. This salt and pepper stuff that the wife uses ain't cutting it. You guys use all sorts of stuff.
Right?
But I'm going to say here, you're dedicated. You work for me. And it's 5.5 months, and every 5.5 months I say, let's take a trip to Georgia real quick. I just want to show you around for a couple of days.
No, there was none of that.
I'm just saying, like, a way to spin it.
Like, it's time to go reset the clock.
Bro,
Hercules,
you understand how sick that is? That
It's
you were 2
gross.
weeks away from freedom.
Yeah, and it wasn't like in the fourth month we're going to do it. It was literally
The last
week of that fifth month.
Yeah,
and
because we're going to use up
We're gonna
all of your time.
Yeah.
And then you have to sit here knowing I was 2 weeks away from being free. Now I got another 6 months I have to do.
And then you find out that Martha Washington has all these. She's well known for all these recipes. She didn't cook a day in her life.
Go to most of your restaurants, buddy.
Right?
Yeah.
And Martha Washington was known for all these, and it was actually Hercules. It was all his recipes.
George Washington dedicated years to private investigators because one slave escaped.
Well, that was Hercules.
No. There's a book about a woman. It's called The
Woman.
One That Got Away.
So what happened was Hercules. I learned this is Hercules. Then Washington was so afraid that he was going to run away that he took him down and then put him in the field. So he'd take him down for that week and have him still cook. And then he was so afraid that he tried to demean him and say, okay, you're going out to the field to be a laborer. And then it was George Washington's birthday or something. And during the festivity, Hercules disappeared. See you later. And then ends up going to New York, living in New York, under a different name and whatnot. But they kind of tracked him. But he was like, I'm done with this game. See you later. And he just disappeared from the field and went and lived in New York as a cook and a laborer. Yeah. So he got tired he knew the game. He got tired of it. He's like, you know what? I'm out of here, George. Good luck. And then he was gone, and it bothered George, and he looked
private investigator. So then there was two.
And then there was Thomas Jefferson, who's and I don't remember the name. It wasn't as easy as Hercules, Hemingway, or something. I don't know what it was. His cook grew up out in what is it called, Monticello, right? The big Jefferson estate, Monticello, and Jefferson noticed that this young man had a keen thing for food, so he started cooking. Well, then Jefferson took him to France, took this slave to France, and got him classically trained. And then the chef come back, and the chef is like, this is bogus shit. This is crazy. I'm out of here. And Jefferson's, listen, the only way that I've invested a lot of money in you, he says. I own you. I invest a lot of money in you. The only way that you can be a free man, and they knew where they were in the North, right? The only way you can be a free man is by making sure I can have the same quality food. So this guy trained his little brother to be the chef, and then
took off.
And then later he went and was a cook someplace in Ohio or something like that, and then died of alcohol. Drank himself to death. Which what it is. So I mean, but the fascinating thing is this documentary, High on the Hog, is talking about food, but here's the real deal.
Right.
Here's what happened. Hey, did you know that African Americans were the first cowboys one out of every four cowboys in the West was African American.
They don't talk about
They
that.
don't talk about that.
Don't talk about African Asians with dread. Don't talk about none of that.
So the interesting thing is it's a really, really cool documentary. But the sad thing is that it wouldn't be watched, I don't think, if it was just like the real history. They're doing it through food. So
Right.
So people are like, food
Person, yeah. Because no one wants to hear the hard truth about our country.
And that's the sad thing, right? That's the sad thing.
So then my other thought is, if there's been all this years of historians that have come through all these great colleges, right? It takes a person doing a documentary to finally get the truth out.
Yeah.
That means if I'm a historian, like a true historian, and I'm at a university, I have to have done my research. The stuff that you have to do to really be a professor, you have to do your research, know the truth, and then teach a lie for your whole career. And be cool with it. And be cool with knowing that every 6 months, this dude hit the reset button on slaves and then praise him to a class full of people and then condemn them for ever criticizing this individual with a straight face. It's a different type of sick.
People do crazy things for money, right? Hey.
I mean, like you said it. People sold out their own for slavery. People sell out their own for a check.
Yep. And the fun part of it, and I guess the other interesting part, I guess, not necessarily fun, is I'm kind of watching my own reaction to this, and catching myself going, "Come on, bullshit! First cowboy, bullshit!" That's what's, and I know it's going through a lot of other people's heads. The question that I will ask, because of who I am and maybe my stance in life, is throughout this we hear about Black history. Why can't it just be history? Why can't it just be the truth? Why can't, you know what I'm saying? Because when I label that, now there's that separation, right? It's right. Because we haven't, through your life, we haven't gone through the classes and the history books going, this is white history. It's just been history. Right. Because we can rewind back to the veteran statement. History, free, veterans means white. It does not. So then by default, we have to say the Black veterans who served. We have to say the Black history. We have to say, because otherwise we've learned on this side of the table, history, freedom, veterans that are free or veterans that should be respected do not include us. If we're just watching, if it was non-biased, if I could not tell you what color it is, but I had to watch and observe, it doesn't take too many. That's why Gary will tell from watching from across the water, this is what you guys do. You guys make it look this way. He says it every week. Right.
Watching from across the water, you guys do this. So then how can a person get mad if you've taught me history doesn't include me, then I have to do something to make my own. Okay.
And I bring this up because I know that there are millions of people sitting there.
Thank you.
Going through the same question and
how you just said cowboys, right?
Yeah.
Boom. The word cowboys.
Yeah.
No one thinks Black. When you hear the word Cowboys of the Wild West, do you think Deshaun? No. You don't.
Right.
Clint Eastwood and, you know what I'm saying, those guys.
Yeah.
That's what you think of, even though historically.
Yeah. Well, and I get that, right? And as a guy, as a 50-year-old guy who white dude, right? That grew up in Iowa, I didn't think of it just as white. You know what I mean?
Cowboys?
Cowboys are just history in general, right? History in general. I didn't think of it as just white. That's just who I am, right? Now, am I going, oh shit, no way, through this whole documentary? Absolutely am. Right? You're like, listen, Thomas Jefferson, I almost said George Jefferson, wrong show. Thomas Jefferson's, listen to this, his chef is the one who created, guess what? Macaroni and cheese.
Nice. Can you
Dude,
imagine?
I'm just sitting here like,
I'm in the kitchen, bro. I just thought of this thing. Wait till you try this.
And it was
it's
called
mac and cheese.
macaroni pie. And they show them they actually make it in the kitchen there in Monticello, and you're like, oh, and they're like, hey, and you do it like this. I'm like, well, I gotta try that because I never thought of that.
Yeah.
It was just like, right, macaroni and cheese. We go through 8 boxes a week at my house. Hey, this
cheese, huh?
And you never thought of where it came from. And some people will say, why is that important? Because that's just a cool fact.
Right.
That's just a cool fact. Right?
I'm the guy who invented macaroni and cheese.
And they have like his great niece or something there. And she just learned this as his great niece. And she's like, you don't know, and she wells up. Like, you just don't know how proud I'm like, hell yeah.
I'd be ecstatic.
And there's other dishes and things, and you're just like, oh, I didn't know that rice came from there. Well, that's interesting.
Right.
I thought rice was in Japan. No, not. You're just like, huh. Well, isn't that interesting? So, Shana, thank you. Says, can you imagine how conflicted one would be after bonding with someone to such a degree and having to rationalize keeping them captive? Right? A different kind of sick that unfortunately is part of dark humanity. Exploiting seems to be universal. I read a real cool coffee table book when I was 10 with a black cowboy on the cover. That's all it took to educate me at 10, a visual. Yeah, right. Hey, Demond, how are you, brother? And guys, Demond, throw up your link too. I know you got a training coming up on Sunday. You just had one last night, so I'll let people know about that. I don't know how true this is, but I heard many whites didn't want to be cowboys because of the usage of the word boy. It was a put down. Maybe. I mean, cowboys, was that pre-Civil War? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
Pre-Civil War.
So it could be. It could be.
I'm just. Because we had the conversation and I said it earlier, I don't even know if Mom was on the call, where in the South they'll call you a grown man boy. So I don't want to be called it because I know it's derogatory. If you call me out for calling it, I was just having a conversation. No need to get angry, but don't ever call me boy.
Right.
All right. Just connecting the dots.
Yeah. No. The uniqueness. Yeah, I know, right, Gary? Demand is risen. That's it. And I hope that people, white guys, white gals, whatever, just people in general, even African Americans, whatever, Asian, I don't care. You watch this and you go, huh, shit, didn't know that. But then go check your own self. Go, why am I getting a little pissed? Because they keep saying Black history. Why has it got to be Black history? Talk. That's what this whole show is about, right? And I do. And I check my thoughts going through this and go, well, I guess if this bothers me during this 1 hour episode of this documentary, well, then all my Black brothers and sisters have to just be irritated because it hasn't been mentioned throughout their whole life.
Think about it. Where okay, 4th period, history class, they're not going to say nothing about me. Until February, when we hear about the Fantastic Five, they're not going to say anything about me.
Well, next week we'll have a surprise. Next week we'll just have
how you talked about it in your history class. You didn't really think about it. It's the thing they say about when you get a group photo, the first person you look for is you.
Yeah.
Imagine a history class where you're looking for you. We don't show up.
But it's true.
Maybe 300 pages. Nah, you fit in 12 to 11 pages. That's all you
just
fit
in the 60s, though. That was Rosa
Parks.
Parks.
All you fit in is these 11 pages.
Well, there's 12 now because of Barack. So, but that comes a couple chapters later.
See, there's hope for you guys.
That's right.
You got this in him.
Right. Damon says, increase your mental strength through the art of being bold. Build on your character and integrity. Overcome your fear of choosing. 3, leverage your greatness within. 4, defy your urge to quit. Click on the link to access and follow me and book an event. Yeah, symposium. Yeah, great stuff. Thank you. And it's SYMPOSIUM. Is that LLL? Or is that, I don't know, HTTPS //SYM.FYL /E111EO. Just come check out the comments here on Facebook and on YouTube to catch Damon's link. Yeah. Shayna says Black history is my history, and until it's truthfully told, it's BS. It's everybody's history, and that's especially here in America. When you start understanding and hearing, right, the truth, exclamation points. Thank you. So HTTPS SYMFY symposium exclamation point. So Phalmonic symposium.
Right.
Yeah. That's the. And I'm the white guy on the show. If you're listening,
we sound the same, but
yeah, it's things I didn't know, and I sit there and I do ask myself through this. I'm like, no, why wouldn't we have put this in the history books? Why wouldn't we? I mean, this is fascinating to me. I love this kind of stuff. I do. And you're like, man, why wouldn't we have put this? This is this is an interesting story, and this is great. And it's not and I look at it because of who I am, Bill. I look at it and go, man, he went through hell. Like Shayna said, hey, I went to France with this guy.
Right.
And then I'm like, hey, buddy, I had wine with you in France. We weed and whatever in France. I want to go break out and do my thing. I'm sorry, you can't.
You can't.
I own you.
I mean, you guys also
here's what I'll do, because we have drank wine in France. Give me another slave to do what you do, and I'll let you go.
Make it your brother. Keep it in the family.
Right.
Set him up for something that would be inhumane.
Right.
I mean, think about the mammies. Like, you literally helped raise this person's child, took care of them when they're sick, and then the first time they have a mood swing, hear these horrible phrases.
Oh, it's it's tough. And that's why I say. But to me,
we're gonna skip that. Don't.
So it's hard. It's hard to say. For those listening, only go to symposium.us. Create a profile, then search for Damon to find the offer and book the training. Great stuff. Absolutely. And again, it's not a political show, right? It's not an R&D. This is a human show, right? And great that you learned that,
right?
But if the story is millions and millions and millions of the same story for millions, for hundreds of years, then you're the one-off.
Right. I mean, we addressed that in the 11 pages. Right. Lots of other phrases were talked about.
Right.
But it's only 11 pages.
Right.
So,
right. For those listening, I already did that one. Right. Gotcha.
Right.
I started reading it again. I'm like, hey, Damon, I love you. So I think that, I mean, the truth is what the truth is. And if you don't know the truth, or you haven't been told the truth, then all you know is what you've been told. Right. And to me, I think that, I question, and you're like, well, why didn't? What's so bad about this? Why wouldn't I have known this? Why? So it's just, it's interesting to me. And, I think with shows like this, documentaries like this, with social media the way it is, maybe the dial's being turned.
Sal says, whose truth?
Right. Yeah,
I
that's
think
what I'm
that,
saying.
I think the dial is being turned, and I think that that's where I will encourage, and we'll talk off screen about an idea.
Yeah.
But I will encourage those who want to be independent and have outlets to be able to tell different parts of history, so that maybe a collective thing that tells kind of a whole picture of history from all aspects and views and point of views. And just because the way that it's being taught right now is one sided.
Yeah.
And it's.
I mean, we don't, we don't talk a lot about putting Asians into jail or cages, during World War II after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, or even if you just look like an Asian.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm from Philippines.
Right. It doesn't matter. You look close enough.
Getting in a cage.
We don't have that.
We don't talk too much about that either. And Sale, to answer your question, whose truth follow the money? You follow the money always. That's all I will say. You follow the money.
Follow the money.
And listen, it's not about who's right or who's wrong. This is not a who's right or who's wrong.
Right.
This is about history. History is history.
History is history.
This is history. It's not, again. Why haven't we been taught? I don't know. I don't have that answer, right? But follow the money.
Keeping it on the theme though, as far as like how you can build a relationship or whatever, and then still want this person to settle for this. I think going back to how this episode started, cutting off the lieutenant's microphone, right, so that we don't have to hear the role that African Americans played. Then we don't have to then connect the dots of, and they still had the backbone or the character to do this, and then we didn't allow them to have the same freedoms that they signed up to fight for. If we continue to tell the story, the real story, the truthful story, then how we treated certain people and the contradiction or the hypocrisy behind it gets highlighted. Okay,
so, but the other question is this. The actions of a few are not the actions of all. So how many celebrations did we have that did honor African Americans over Memorial Day? We didn't hear that. We just heard about the instance of two individuals who cut this guy's mic off, right? So these are two individuals. So if we were to go back to who's telling the story in the media or whatnot, we chose to focus on two individuals. However, we didn't choose to focus on all of the celebrations.
How many celebrations did you see, Kent?
Well, I didn't see any.
Exactly. So it's not two individuals.
What do you mean? The story is about two individuals.
No. Hear me out. If you didn't hear anywhere else the praising of African American history, then it's not just two individuals. It's all around that they're going to hire him, but not him to give the speech. Yes, it was two individuals who cut the microphone on, but historically, if we've all come into agreement that the history books looks the same, it's not two individuals.
No, I understand, but I'm saying right now, today, again, we talk about the narrative. What's the narrative out there? If I want to continue to separate and create hate, then I do this. If I want you talked about it earlier.
How though? Let me ask you this. So I'm creating hate if I said, hey, they're still up to the same thing that they choose to do. That's me creating hate, or that's me pointing out that the same BS is still happening.
Okay, but you said earlier, and I'm going to use your words.
Go for it.
Why do we use so much energy to put up statues rather than to uplift?
Okay.
All right. So you're talking about pointing out the BS by two individuals instead of showing the 25,000 celebrations that we had for African Americans.
That's not taking down a statue. That's saying, hey, listen, if we're supposed to be all for one, this, respect the veterans, we should respect them in all situations. That's upholding a standard. That's not being nitpicky. That's saying, you just told me the standard is we don't disrespect them. We can't kneel because we got to support these guys and we're for these guys and all these guys served or whatever and all these guys should be respected. Okay, cool. Keep that same energy and don't kick the mic off when they talk about black folks. That's all I'm saying. What you're saying is, well, let's talk about the other hundreds of memorial things that talked about black people. There weren't none that I heard of. There should be more if we're upholding to all the veterans
that you heard of.
And I think, listen, cool. If there were, send it to me. I will gladly hit the share button. As it stands, though, I didn't hear of any. What I did hear of is this,
Well, sure.
and we should keep the
And
same
then we can
standard.
go back to algorithms and artificial intelligence that want to do that and push that at you.
Because there's friends, clearly, there's people who have a different algorithm that find all the other stuff, and none of them had a rebuttal.
For maybe they didn't want to partake in the conversation.
You know the people and the energy they have. They love to partake in those conversations. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. That's all they do. Stop it.
Listen,
come on.
That's what I'm saying. Is where are we putting our focus? So again, I understand. I totally understand.
It's bad to say let's keep the same energy and make sure that we talk about this and this. All of a sudden now it's bad, Ken? No, that's not a bad place to put energy. That's keeping the standard high. That's keeping it consistent, because if you don't do that, then what happens? If we say, okay, well, this is just a one-off, and this is just one off, and this is just a one off, this is just
then
one
you
off,
have a lot of them.
then it's the same history book that we've been reading, Kent. That's what you have.
I get it. But to your own words, more people are spending more energy to find the bad than the good.
No. It's not energy to find the bad. It's saying, hey, look, this is what we were talking about. When you told me that I was making stuff up, this is what it looks like. That's not just trying to find the bad.
Well, I understand, but then bring the good right on it.
I always bring the good, but I'm saying if I'm told that I'm making it up, playing the victim, whatever, and I have to have all this proof, I have to have thousands of things of evidence for you to kind of believe what I'm saying. I'm wrong for saying, see?
I didn't say you're wrong.
No, not you specifically, but when black people, even you said, what, I had to be like, oh my God, really? Like, until it's just blatantly in front of some people, they'll still find a reason to find any loophole to negate or even take any sort of truth in what's being said to them.
Yeah.
So on this side, we have to say, this is what we're talking about. We talk about the police thing. Hey, remember I told you they were going to do this?
I get it.
This is what it is. I'm not trying to just dwell on the bad, but if I don't say this is what we talked about 2 months ago, as it seems as a whole in this country, most people don't connect those dots of, oh my God, this is what Phil was talking about with the whitewashing of the history books. No, a lot of people on their own don't say they cut his mic. They're not making it up. The general public does not generally do that.
What?
So for me to casually say, this is it. This is that play. It's not spinning to tear down the statue. It's just saying like, look, bro, we can't keep making and justifying BS. In certain situations, it's not a coincidence anymore. This is just the play they run to keep these people out of the picture.
Well, sure. And that American Legion branch or whatever the hell it's called that's been disassembled. They're like, oh, we don't play that game. Done. Goodbye. Right. But it doesn't mean that the people that feel that way are gone. It's just that,
just don't like getting called on it.
Right. But and listen, I appreciate your passion. I do. And I'm glad I pissed you off a little bit. That's okay.
Bro.
Right. But that's what this show is about. And it's about being transparent. It's about being open. It's about being honest. I understand what you're saying. I'm coming from, all right, well, let's celebrate. Let's kumbaya this thing. Right.
Would love to.
Right.
But that's the thing. It's the kumbaya. We're all one team, team.
Now,
hey, let's include black people. Not on our team.
Right. But at the same time, and I'll tell people this because I don't have cable. I do not watch the news. I tend to read things. I didn't know about this till you brought it up. Right. Till you're like, hey, check this out. I'm like, oh, okay. Right. And that's okay. And I did. But I too, though, didn't go spend energy to go, okay, well, there was 2,500 other great, so I didn't spend that energy either. Right. So, and I get that. So if I say, why can't we do that? I know we're running over. Why can't we do that? Well, I didn't do it either. So, I mean, I'm not afraid to call an apple, right? It is, right? Gary says, I understand Phil's point. It's a general sense of denial and ignorance about the quote-unquote bad facts that leads to these bad facts being brought up time and time again in conversations. The more visual, Shana says, the more visual representation of honor and success is what helps normalization. If your focus isn't wasted, if there is improvement. I'm sure Candace Owens would have a few good points. Why can't both perspectives? Yeah, and that's what this show's about. Let's take a look at both perspectives. And we've talked about our good friend Candace Owens, right?
We talked about there were slaves selling slaves.
Yeah. So
There's a Candace Owens.
So
there's a
and
Candace Owens.
Candace is to me a brilliant lady. I don't know her. I've never met her. Seems kind of brilliant to me. I mean, to get to where she's at in life. And then years ago, Glenn Beck did a series on Fox about Black founding fathers and learned some things he had never heard before. He seemed genuinely pissed off that this information wasn't part of the school curriculum. Yeah, you're right. And I mean, and that's a radio jockey guy, right? That's a talking head, as I would call him. But yeah, and it's out there, and that's that. I am too, Damon. I'm there. I'm very much the same way. But I get excited about it. I'm like, oh, hey, this is where macaroni and cheese came from,
Right?
Like, cool.
Why wouldn't we want to talk about that?
Right.
Oh, the same coincidence.
So to me, being a history nut, I enjoy it, and I always question everything, and I look at everything. But the interesting thing is, and the question that we always pose here on the bridge is, okay, well, why hasn't it been? Why are we just finding out about this now at 52 years old, right?
Because
right.
Random 2 people here and 2 people there
Yeah.
and 2 people there and 2 more over here.
Now I want you to know. Now listen,
Same
bridging
thing.
civil tension is this. And I want you to understand this. I love this guy over here.
Yeah, it's always going to
I ain't mad at him, and I love his passion, and I love what he stands for. Do I agree with everything? No. Same way.
Right.
He doesn't agree with everything with me. That's how we learn.
That's the show.
That's the
That we did that, and then we're going to give
Right.
it the same handshake
Right.
that we always do, and it's going to be a hug. That's where you're supposed to be able to get to.
And we can do that now in Illinois because we're free.
Right.
Yeah, whatever, right? Yeah, the coronavirus is lifted, I guess. I don't know. All right, so come back next week because we've got a very, very special show next week that Phil doesn't even know about, and I'm not going to tell him, but until he finds out next
Surprise!
week. So it's going to be a surprise, but trust me, come back. It's going to be a blast. So tune in tomorrow morning tune in today at noon for Dream Home Experts, but then follow them tonight at 8 as they're giving away an April Air dehumidifier for your home. It's a $1,200, but you got to tune in over there. Thank you, Shayna. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, everybody. Damon, Sal, Tobin, everybody out there. Thank you so much for being part of the show, giving us your comments. We absolutely love it. We'll see you next week right here on the same multicultural channel,
Thanks,
same
lady.
multicultural time. Take care, everybody.
All right, love y'all.